Alrighty, boys and girls, once again it is I, Coach Goo, back with another fun-filled, action-packed, flipped geometry classroom video. Today we're going to be learning about the properties of rectangles. Oh boy, do I love me some rectangle. Alright, so first things first, check this out. We're going to define a rectangle. So a rectangle is defined as a parallelogram with four right angles. So write that over here in the top left right here. Four right angles. Now, you see that a rectangle is actually a parallelogram. Now, the only difference, remember, a parallelogram can look like this, right? Or it can look like this. As long as it has two opposite sides that are parallel. Now, the special thing about the rectangle is that it has four right angles. But now, because a rectangle is a parallelogram, that means it has all the properties that a parallelogram has. So I'm not going to fill all this stuff out for you. I want you to do it on your own. But if you need to look, go look back at your properties of parallelograms notes or look at that video, and it's the exact same thing. Here, I'll show you. Check this out. See, on the properties of parallelogram, we're going to fill in the exact same kind of thing, except the letters are different. You see, on the properties of parallelograms, we have Q, R, S, and P. On the rectangles, we have F, H, I, and E. But look, it's the exact same thing. Watch, properties of parallelograms. It says properties of sides. Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Now look at the rectangles. Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Okay, you see there's a lot of, it's pretty much the same thing. Now there's only a few differences, and I'm going to show you those right now. So the few differences is, in the bottom left here, we have four right angles. That means that the measure of angle E equals the measure of angle F equals the measure of angle H, which equals the measure of angle I. And all of those measures equal what? 90 degrees. Good. And then there's one more difference. There's only one more difference, and that is that diagonals are congruent. So in our picture, what's one of the diagonals? Fi. And Fi is going to be congruent to EH. Now, why is that? Because it's a rectangle. See, we got four right angles. In a parallelogram, look, watch this drawing. Now, look at my two diagonals. We got this one, and then we got this one. Are those congruent? No. The green diagonal is clearly longer than the orange diagonal. But in a rectangle, both the diagonals will be exactly the same. Now, there's a few more things we need to fill out. One, this little cloud on the left side, the interior angle sum is 360 degrees. That's the same as a parallelogram. Now, here's a difference though. Bisected diagonals create isosceles. Oh, I always spell isosceles wrong. Jeez. Isosceles triangles. That means when you bisect the diagonal, they always, watch this, look. It creates a triangle that has two congruent sides and then a different side. See, every one, it creates a triangle that has two congruent sides and then a different side. And then lastly, the cloud on the very right side is that diagonals create congruent right triangles. Now you see, let me show you, let me draw this out for you. Watch this diagonal. Bam. Look at this. Boom. That's a right triangle, right? That blue is a right triangle. Now if you look on the other diagonal going the bottom way, let me use dark green. This is also a right triangle, and these two triangles are actually congruent. All right, so that is the properties. Make sure you fill everything out to get full credit. So let's move on to some examples then. Onto the back side. So examples 1 through 9. PRST, PRIST, is a rectangle, and we're going to find each angle if the measure of angle 1 is 50 degrees. Now watch and learn, my friends. 50 degrees is angle 1. That's right here. Now remember, bisected diagonals always create isosceles triangles. All isosceles triangles have two congruent sides and two congruent angles. So measure of angle 1's 50. What's measure of angle 2? Remember, this total has to be a right angle. So what would 2 be? It's going to be 40 degrees. That's right, 40 degrees. Now let's see if we can find 3. Remember, they're always isosceles triangles. So 3 is going to be the exact same thing as 2. Both are 40 degrees. Nice. Measure of angle 4. 3 plus 4, this angle right here, that's a right angle. That has to equal 90. So angle 4 is also 50 degrees. Right? Okay. Measure of angle 5. That's down over here. You guys should be able to work your way around the outside. But let's find this missing angle right here. That's just a mystery. It's unnamed. What is that angle going to be? Remember, the total in any triangle is 180 degrees. I already have 40 from here, plus 40 from here. That's 80. So what's this angle have to be? It needs to be 100 degrees. Good. So if I know that angle is 100 degrees, what's angle 8? What's the measure of angle 8? Look, they're vertical angles. That means they're congruent. They're the exact same. So measure of angle 8 is also 100 degrees. And then doing one more with you. If you see that the measure of angle 8 is 100 degrees, what's the measure of angle 9? Remember, this is a linear pair. Linear pairs always add to a 180. So what would the measure of angle 9 have to be? It's going to have to be 80 degrees because 100 plus 80 equals 180. So measure of angle 9 is 80 degrees. So I want you guys to fill out the rest of these numbers. So do number 4, 5, 6, and 9. On to the next example. 10 through 13, we're trying to find x or any variable that's given to us using the properties of rectangles. So what do we know? Number 10. We've got two sides. These two sides are going to be congruent. You can even tell by the picture, which means the equations are equal to each other. 7x minus 4 equals 6x plus 4. All right, so you're going to solve this and find your answer. On 11, so on number 11, we got to find x first. Well, look, there's two right here, two equations with x in it. But we know that there's 4 right angles in a rectangle. So that means that when I add these two equations together, it should equal 90. So my equation is going to be 5x plus 8 plus 3x plus 2. Now I'm just going to combine this together. 5x plus 3x is 8x. And then 8 plus 2 is 10. So 8x plus 10, that's both of those angles, equals 90. So now finish that off. To find x, we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. And then we get that 8x equals 80. Then divide by 8 on both sides. And x equals 10. So then I found x equals 10. Now I need to find y. And what can I use to find y? Well, I can see that this angle over here, right here, bam, and this, no, that's the wrong one. The angle on the bottom right here, boom, and this angle on the top right here with the y, those are alternate interior angles, which means they are congruent. So my equation could be 3x plus 2 equals 6y plus 2. I know that x is 10, so I'm going to substitute that in. 3 times 10 plus 2 equals 6y plus 2. That's 32 equals 6y plus 2. I would subtract 2 from both sides. 30 equals 6y. Divide by 6 on both sides. And 5 equals y. So I've got, So I've got 10 for x and 5 for y. Now I'm going to erase everything so I can get some more space. Bam. Lastly, numbers 12 and 13. On number 12, we're going to have to label here. PS, that's right here. Boom. This whole thing is 6x plus 3. Then RT That's this other diagonal. Bam. That is 7x minus 2. Okay, what do we know about the diagonals? Look at the notes if you don't know. The diagonals are congruent. That means these two equations are going to be equal to each other. So 6x plus 3 equals 7x minus 2. Solve that and find x. And lastly, number 13, how am I going to find this? Well, remember, diagonals bisect each other. So PS, this diagonal right here is cutting RT in half, perfectly in half. That means this side right here is congruent to the side right here. If they're congruent, what equation could I write? 2x minus 4 equals 36. Yes. So solve x right there. And that's the last problem in the notes. So there we have it, guys. Properties of rectangles, almost exactly the same as properties of parallelograms, because a rectangle is a parallelogram, but it has 4 right angles, so there's a few extra rules. But that's it for this one, guys. So until next one, peace!